So I ended up doing a engine swap last year on my Troy Bilt pressure washer because it ended up dying on me with a Predator 173. Of course, these are made for lawnmowers, and I had to do some minor rigging to get it to work, but it actually fits pretty well in the frame, and it has a little bit more horsepower than that was on it. Now this is about a year later, and this whole rig job just is not working. Basically, I have the throttle wired full open, and then this is the brake, the engine brake, I have wired back. Otherwise this will not even turn over. The only negative part is there is no way to shut this motor down without using the primer button and flooding it, which is not very good. Now I only use this every few times a year, so maybe 3 or 4 times a year, so it's not that big of a deal to me, but I'm gonna fix it right with a shut-off switch. Well, let's get to work. I'm going to remove the engine from the frame to make this a lot easier so you can see it a little bit better. I start by removing the 3 10mm bolts on the top here. This just pulls straight up. We'll set that aside. This also just pulls up and out of the way. Here we have the flywheel, coil pack, spark plug. Now it looks like this here shut off runs to back here, so when this engine brake came forward, it actually would make contact with that, grounding it out and shutting it down. What we're going to do is we're going to remove this and this line and actually run this wire up to here. We're going to put a shut-off switch somewhere up here or somewhere on this frame. This Phillips screwdriver. There is a nut underneath the bottom of this. I am just going to hold my finger on the bottom of the nut and turn the screw. Bear with my camera angle here. Alright. Oh, the screw just came flying off. And I can push. Uh-oh. Came flying all the way down here. And that should just come right out, like so. And here's our wire we're going to use for grounding a switch at the top. So let's cut this off, splice this, and make a longer lead here. What you're going to need is your box full of goodies, some spare wire, your wire crimper, and stripper. Now I'm going to utilize the hole that's already here in the casing that I'll cut here. I'll run the wire down through here, out here, because the cover actually doesn't cover that. So I'll be able to run that up through here, and where this sits here, it'll actually be about right here. I'll zip tie it to the frame, up, and we'll run it up to there. Bear with me because I do not have my camera equipment today, so I cannot put my stuff on a tripod, so this may get a little bit shaky. Bear with me. What we're going to do, to start off, we're going to cut back their wire. So I'm going to be one-handing everything. This will be fun. Easy, cut that off. We'll strip that. Getting the idea here. I'm going to cut a piece of my wire here, attach it to that. Bear with me here. Alright, we have our crimped wire It's being fed down through this line here, this hole, sorry. There we go, it's out of the way of everything. It's not gonna get caught on anything. And this is where we're gonna run it once we get the motor back onto that. Up the frame, up to a switch. The switch is going to have a ground onto the frame, so whenever you flip the switch, it will ground itself to the frame, and that's how it stops your ignition coil. Basically what I'm doing here is zip tying it to the frame. Then I'm going to drill a hole for my switch. I'd say right in the middle. I went through my box of old stuff and I found an old switch. I ended up finding resistance values between this pin and this pin when the switch is on or off. So one's going to be my ground and one is going to be my lead down to the coil pack. So let's get drilling that hole. That'll work just nicely. Now to wire the back of it. Now on that, ready for our switch here, and this is the ignition coil to our switch. I did a quick solder job. Doesn't look the prettiest, but I'm upside down. Just enough so the wires stay on there, since this area right here really vibrates. Then again, there's my ground screw right here. So one terminal to the other terminal. Alright, let's show you how this works. Alright, now I have you all back together. There's your switch. So I did change this up a little bit here. I actually made like a quick disconnect here. So whenever I pull the motor for the winter for draining and everything, it makes it just a lot simpler. I can separate them by just pulling these apart, and that's it. And here's showing you the completion of the switch here. I have the red to engine ground. I have the black to our wire that we ran up to our switch here. Now if you watch the multimeter, so basically that's going to shut off our ignition coil here whenever we flip the switch. We got her all hooked up. Wand's on. Water's on. Just to show that it works real good, we'll give her a prime. See? It's off. Put her on. Works good. Now it looks like I gotta clean the carburetor again because it's surging, so the pilot needs cleaned up. My next project though, hook up a throttle right here. I'm bringing it up around, and I'll end up putting a throttle in here as well, off an old push mower I have, instead of reaching down here every time and Basically, I just got this piece of metal. What I do is I push this to full speed when I need it, and I just bend the tab up. It holds it at full speed. I need to lower it a little bit. I'll just move that to wherever I want it at, bend the metal again. It works. It's been working for over a year now like this. But now I have a shut-off switch. Instead of priming it to shut it off, which in turn causes a rough start later. But yeah, here we are. It's a nice day in Pennsylvania. Back to work.